Hey, Motorman here. I'm at Newport Richie Harley Davidson, and I'm about to take this 883 Sportster for a test ride. This is a motorcycle that a lot of people look at it as an entry-level motorcycle, or some people say a motorcycle for women, but I don't look at it that way. I love the looks of the Sportster. It's been the same for many years. It's got the Evo motor, which they worked the bugs out of about, I don't know, 15 or 20 years ago. Even the 883 model has plenty of power and torque. And I particularly like the blacked out look on this bike. Just about every part of it is blacked out. Now I had a 2009 Sportster Low that we use for a training bike, and we use it for a training bike because it is an easy motorcycle to ride. Short wheelbase, short rake, extremely nimble. Not the best highway bike. I mean, you can cruise in the highway, you know, at 70, 80 miles an hour, even on the 883. But above 70 miles an hour, you're going to start getting some vibration. They've been rubber mounted since 2004, so the days of them rattling your teeth at anything above 50 are long gone. They are much smoother than they ever were. But it's a motorcycle that feels like what you think a motorcycle or Harley Davidson motorcycle should feel like. Very mechanical feel to these bikes. So if you're used to metric bikes, you know, something like a Honda 750, yeah, they're smoother. But I don't know, they just don't have the character that this motorcycle has. Nor do they have the torque or the power that even the 883 has. These are $89.95. Another $795, I believe, for ABS, which I highly recommend. So you can get in one of these about 10 grand. And if most of your riding is around town, you really never grow out of it. Like I said, it will take a long trip. It's just not going to be as comfortable as the soft tail models or, of course, the touring bikes. That's not what it's for. So let's take it out for a ride and see what it's like. Well, all right. As I said, this is the 883 model. They also make a 1200 model. If you think you need more power, that bike looks exactly the same as this one, but it does have considerably more power. The 883 has lots of torque, especially for a motor this size. And as I said, it has a very mechanical feel to it. It has been refined over the years as compared to, I'd say, pre-2004 models when the motor was solid mounted. And anything above 50, they really started to vibrate. That's not the case anymore. And I've heard people say that these bikes have a high center of gravity. I really don't know what that means. I mean, any motorcycle, if you stop and you let go of it, and you don't put the kickstand down, it's going to fall over. So they all have a high center of gravity. If you watch any police rodeos, you notice that on the police Harley Davidsons, they have a seat that's sits 6 inches above the frame. Then you put the rider on top of that. Now that's a high center of gravity, but yet they handle it like a toy because they're motor officers and they've got technique. 3 techniques, really. Head knives, friction zone, a little pressure on the rear brake, and it doesn't matter. You could stand up on the seat, and that would be really high center of gravity and still handle it with the ease of a child's toy as long as you're good with the clutch and throttle. Now these bikes are not lacking for power, especially as compared to comparable cruiser motorcycles in this price range. Torque is what you feel, not horsepower, and you feel the torque right off of idle on these bikes. Shifting takes some effort. but it is a exact feeling. You know when you've got the bike in gear. There's no question about that. Clutch is an easy pull, cable clutch by the way on the Sportster model, so you can adjust that clutch to grab any place you want, which is something you can no longer do on the bikes equipped with hydraulic clutches. Personally, I like the cable clutch much better because I like to set that friction zone exactly where I want it. That also helps for ladies who seem to like these bikes. You got a bit smaller hand, you don't want to have that clutch grabbing all the way out at the end of travel. Now there's not a ton of information. You got your speedometer there, trip odometer, an odometer. That's really about it. In third gear now, which is a great around town gear, because you got plenty of torque, plenty of passing power, and because these bikes have a short wheelbase and rake, they are extremely nimble, even more nimble than the touring bikes. They just happen to have less lean angle before the pegs or the exhaust on the right side starts to scrape the ground. This is a great commuter motorcycle because of it's a thin motorcycle, fairly lightweight. I think they're right about 550 pounds. Most people do not find it intimidating. You know, maybe if you're coming right out of the beginner's course and you've been riding those 125 Kawasaki's or 250s, yeah, that extra weight might seem intimidating. But if you learn the proper techniques, head nice, friction on a little bit of pressure on the rear brake, you can whip this bike around like a toy. It has a 5-speed transmission, and that's enough for this motorcycle. It's a wide range gearbox, so third or fourth gear around town, and put it in fifth above about 60 miles an hour or so. And as I said, it's great up until you start getting above 75 or so, and a little bit of vibration creeps in to the grips, but it is a low frequency vibration. But as I said, this bike has a very mechanical feel to it. It feels like what you think if you've never been on a motorcycle and you get on one of these. This is what a motorcycle should feel like. Keeping a close eye on this guy. I'm waiting. You never know when they're going to pull out in front of you. I had both my brakes covered and I slowed down, which is what you should do whenever there's a chance that somebody could pull out in front of you at an intersection. Now, if you're going to tear up the twisties, this bike will do it just fine, but you've got about, I think it's 25 or 26 degree lean angle, and that's when the pegs start to scrape. That scares the crap out of a lot of people, but if you get used to it, they do fold up. On the left side, you can lean it quite a bit further, even when the pegs are scraping the ground. On the right side, as long as you don't mind scraping the bottom of your exhaust pipe, you could probably get about a 28 degree lean angle out of this bike before you have to worry about levering the tire off the ground. All Harleys come with self-canceling turn signals. Now, you might say, well, of course they should. Well, most venture bikes do not. I think that's crazy this day and age, but Harley has had them for years and years. And I understand the reason some bikes don't have that is because they have to pay a royalty to the guy who figured out the self-canceling system, and I guess Harley's willing to pay it, and Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, etc. don't want to pay it. And that could create a dangerous situation if you forget that signal light on. People think you're turning, they pull out in front of you. So we're up now 50, 60 miles an hour. No problem at all on this bike. Plenty of power. And of course, if you want more, there's all kinds of modifications on the Evo motors that you can do. They even have a 1200 kit for this bike. You can make these a pretty fast motorcycle because of the lightweight. So if you like a light, nimble motorcycle for around town use and you want something with a lot more power, first thing I'd say is get a 1200. Second thing I'd say is you get a good buy on one of these. Yeah, save up some money. An exhaust system, a stage 1, stage 2 kitted cam will really make these bikes fly. Now, you might say, well, are there better buys in this price range than $9,000, $10,000? It really depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for a cruiser, I'd probably say no, there aren't any better buys than this. There are some cheaper bikes, but they just don't have the feel of this motorcycle. Now, if you like sport bikes, yeah, there's plenty of bikes. Plenty of sport bikes in that price range that are much faster, handle much better. But that's like comparing apples and oranges. It depends on what you're looking for and what you like. This also makes a great second bike if you've got a big touring motorcycle and you want something lighter for around town use. The Sportster just might fit the bill. So I hope if you like these road tests, you give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button.